Roland stood frozen in the center of the dining room, a bouquet of deep red anniversary roses hanging heavily from his hand. The billionaire who negotiated billion-dollar deals without blinking could not force himself to take another breath. 2 elegant dinner plates sat untouched beneath the glow of the chandelier. The candles had burned low, the food had gone cold, and beside Monica's neatly folded napkin rested a stack of papers that had just shattered the future he thought was waiting for him. Petition for divorce. Roland stared at the words. No, this had to be some misunderstanding. Only minutes earlier he had stepped out of his black car outside their Washington home feeling confident. He had even rehearsed what he planned to say. He brought roses. He remembered the anniversary. Surely that counted for something, didn't it? His fingers tightened around the bouquet. "Monica?" he called, his voice lacking the certainty people admired in boardrooms. No answer. His eyes drifted back to the papers. For the first time in years, Roland had no speech prepared. No assistant to solve the crisis. No amount of money to throw at the problem. No strategy. Only silence. Then footsteps echoed softly behind him. He turned. Monica stood at the entrance of the dining room. Calm, composed, heartbreak hidden beneath dignity, her eyes moved from the roses in his trembling hands to the divorce papers on the table. Roland swallowed hard. "Happy anniversary," he whispered. Monica looked at him for a long moment before speaking. "You brought roses," she said softly, "to a marriage you stopped." Watering. That sentence hurt more than anger ever could. Roland lowered the roses slowly, as though the bouquet had suddenly gained weight in his hands. He opened his mouth, searching for the right words. "I didn't know things had gotten this bad." Monica's expression softened for only a second before exhaustion settled back into her features. "That's the problem, Roland," she replied quietly. "You stopped noticing." He took a step toward her. "Please, don't do this tonight." A painful smile touched her lips. "I didn't choose tonight to punish you," she said. "I chose tonight because I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine." Roland looked around the room. The expensive dining table, the polished floors, the roses wrapped in gold ribbon, the house people envied. Everything looked perfect. Everything looked successful. Yet standing across from Monica, he realized something terrifying. He had built a beautiful life while allowing his marriage to become lonely. Monica folded her hands together. "I didn't file because I stopped loving you." Roland's head lifted immediately. "What?" Her eyes glistened, though her voice remained steady. "I filed because I started disappearing." The room fell silent. For a brief moment, Roland wanted Monica to tell him she hated him. Hatred would have been easier. But love? Love mixed with disappointment? Love that had begged to be seen until it grew tired? That truth broke through every defense he had. Could a man who arrived too late with roses still save the marriage he had neglected? Or had the woman he loved finally reached the end of waiting? Before we continue, let's take a brief moment together. Heavenly Father, thank you for the gift of love, family, and second chances. Teach us to listen before hearts grow weary, to value people above pride, and to choose kindness even during difficult moments. May this story remind us to protect what truly matters. Bless every person watching today with wisdom, healing, and peace. Amen. Welcome to Love, Money, and Secret, where America's greatest stories and life lessons meet creativity and heart. If you're new to the family, we're grateful to have you here. Before we continue, tell us in the comments, where are you watching from today? If stories about love, mistakes, redemption, and second chances speak to your heart, please take a moment to like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It truly helps YouTube recommend these stories to more people who may need their message. Now, stay with us until the end. Because Roland's greatest challenge was never building an empire. It was learning whether he could rebuild the heart of the woman he almost lost forever. Roland stood there with the roses lowered beside him, staring at Monica as if he had just met the truth for the first time. The house was quiet, but it was not peaceful. It was the kind of quiet that made every missed dinner, every unanswered message, every lonely evening feel present in the room. Monica did not raise her voice. That almost made it worse. If she had shouted, Roland might have known what to do with it. He could have defended himself, apologized quickly, promised something dramatic, or reached for the kind of words men use when they are afraid of losing what they never properly protected. But Monica's calmness gave him nowhere to hide. He looked at the roses again. Only 30 minutes earlier, he had been sitting in the back of his black car, adjusting the gold ribbon around the bouquet, thinking he had done well. He had chosen the most expensive arrangement the florist offered. He had cleared 90 minutes from his schedule. He had even told his driver not to wait too close to the entrance because tonight was supposed to be private. Roland had imagined Monica smiling. He had imagined her forgiving the late nights, the canceled plans, the lonely dinners, the public moments where he had stayed silent when she needed him to speak. He had imagined everything except this. "Monica," he said carefully, "I came home." She looked at him with tired eyes. "You came home for the anniversary," she replied. "That is not the same as coming home to me." Roland's mouth opened, but no answer came. The untouched plates on the table seemed to accuse him. 2 seats, 2 meals, 1 marriage sitting between them like something waiting to be buried. He set the roses down near the edge of the table, away from the divorce papers, as though the flowers did not deserve to touch them. "I thought we could have dinner," he said. Monica gave a small nod. "I thought so too. For many years," those 4 words entered him slowly. "For many years. Not one bad week, not one forgotten call, not one busy season. Years." Roland pulled out the chair across from her place, but he did not sit. Something about sitting felt too casual for what was happening. "I should have known," he said. Monica's voice stayed soft. Yes, that simple answer hurt more than a long speech. Roland looked around their beautiful Washington home and realized how much of it had been designed to impress people who did not live. There, expensive furniture, fine art, perfect lighting, a table large, enough for guests but too often empty of real conversation. He had given Monica comfort. He had failed to give her companionship. "I bought these because I remembered," he said, touching the rose petals lightly. Monica looked at the bouquet. "No, Roland, you remembered the date. You forgot the marriage." He closed his eyes. There it was again. Truth without cruelty, pain without shouting, love without surrender. He whispered, "Is there anything I can say tonight?" Monica breathed in slowly. "There were many nights when words would have helped," she said. "Tonight, I need you to listen." Roland nodded. For once he did not reach for control. He did not reach for money. He did not reach for pride. He pulled out the chair and sat across from the woman he still loved, while the roses remained on the table between romance and regret. And for the first time in a long time, Roland understood that arriving home was not the same as being present. Roland sat across from Monica without touching the roses again. The silence between them no longer felt empty. It felt overdue. For years, Monica had protected him from difficult conversations. She had softened her disappointment, adjusted her expectations, and convinced herself that love meant patience. But patience had limits. She folded her hands together on the table and looked at the man she had once believed would always choose her first. "You asked if there was anything you could say tonight," Monica began quietly. "The truth is, Roland, I don't need explanations anymore. I needed them years ago." Roland lowered his eyes. He didn't interrupt. Monica continued. "Do you remember the church fundraiser I invited you to last spring?" He nodded slowly. "You said you had an emergency board meeting." "I did," he answered quickly. Monica gave a small, tired smile. "I know." She wasn't accusing him of lying. That somehow hurt more. "I stood there by myself while everyone kept asking where my husband was," she said. "I smiled. I defended you. I said you were busy changing the world." Her eyes met his, but I couldn't understand why changing the world always meant missing our life. Roland swallowed. He remembered that fundraiser. He remembered thinking she would understand. He remembered sending flowers the next morning. "I thought the flowers helped," he admitted. Monica looked down at the bouquet still resting nearby. "That became our pattern," she counted softly. "You missed dinner. You sent flowers. You forgot family gatherings. You bought jewelry. You canceled plans. You booked vacations. You missed conversations. You transferred money." Roland's shoulders stiffened. Each sentence landed with painful accuracy. "I wasn't trying to hurt you," he said. Monica nodded. "I know." She took a breath before continuing. "That's what made it confusing. You weren't cruel. You weren't unfaithful. You weren't abusive." Her voice trembled for the first time. "You just stopped showing up." The words settled heavily between them. Tears gathered in Monica's eyes, but she blinked them back. "Do you know what it's like to sleep beside someone and still miss them?" she asked softly. Roland couldn't answer. "Do you know what it's like to celebrate birthdays alone because your husband had another meeting? To sit through dinners where your chair stays empty? To stop asking because hearing 'I'm sorry' hurts more than silence?" His chest tightened. He had no defense, no contract to negotiate, no business strategy, only consequences. Monica looked at him carefully. "I didn't file because I woke up one morning and stopped loving you." Roland lifted his head immediately. "I filed because I started disappearing." Her voice cracked slightly. "I became the woman who understood everything, the woman who adjusted, the woman who waited." A tear slipped down her cheek. And one day, I realized I couldn't remember the last time I felt chosen. Roland looked at the woman sitting across from him. The woman who had laughed with him, defended him, believed in him, loved him, even when he made it difficult. He finally understood something that no amount of success had taught him. Monica had never asked him to become someone else. She had simply asked him to be present. He stared at the roses, the jewelry, the vacations, the grand gestures. None of them had been what she wanted. Monica wiped away her tear and whispered, "Roland, I never needed your money to prove you loved me." She held his gaze. "I needed your attention." For the first time since seeing the divorce papers, Roland understood the full weight of what he had lost. It wasn't just a marriage in danger. It was the trust of the woman who had spent years choosing him while, quietly wondering when he would choose her back. Roland woke before sunrise. For several seconds he stared at the unfamiliar ceiling above him, confused by the heaviness pressing against his chest. Then he remembered the roses, the untouched dinner, the divorce papers, Monica's voice. "I filed because I started disappearing." He sat up slowly in the guest room. He couldn't remember the last time he had slept there. The silence felt different in daylight, less dramatic, more honest. There was no pretending after a sleepless night. Roland rubbed his face and glanced at his phone resting on the bedside table. 12 missed emails, 3 urgent messages, 2 requests for immediate approval. Normally, he would have answered them before his feet touched the floor. Instead, he turned the phone face down. For the first time in years, his marriage felt more urgent than his empire. Downstairs, the smell of fresh coffee drifted through the kitchen. Monica stood near the counter in comfortable clothes, pouring coffee into a mug. She looked tired, not from lack of sleep, from carrying disappointment for too long. "Morning," Roland said quietly. Monica glanced at him. "Morning." No hostility, no warmth, just honesty. He hesitated before sitting across from her. "Can we talk?" Monica wrapped both hands around her mug. "We've been talking for years, Roland." He lowered his eyes. "You've been speaking," she corrected softly. "I'm only now seeing that. You weren't listening." He nodded. "You're right." Monica looked surprised. Not because he agreed, because he didn't defend himself. Roland inhaled deeply. "I don't know how we got here." Monica stared into her coffee for several moments before answering. "I do." Her voice remained steady. It wasn't one terrible thing. Roland listened carefully. It was little things. "You stopped asking how my day went. You checked your phone during dinner. You promised to attend events and canceled at the last minute. You said we'd make time next week." Her eyes lifted toward him. "And next week kept becoming next month." Roland closed his eyes briefly. Each memory arrived with uncomfortable clarity. "I thought I was working hard for us." "I know," Monica replied. "That's what made it so difficult." He frowned. "What do you mean?" Monica studied him. "You believed providing was enough." A painful silence followed. "You gave me security," she said. "You gave me comfort. You gave me opportunities." Her voice softened. "But Roland?" She swallowed carefully. "There were nights I needed a husband more than I needed a provider." He looked at the woman sitting across from him, not angry, not cruel, just exhausted. He finally asked the question he had avoided. "When did you stop believing things would change?" Monica looked down at the coffee in her hands. "I didn't." Her answer caught him off guard. "I stopped believing you noticed I was waiting." Roland's throat tightened. For years he had measured love by sacrifice, long hours, business deals, financial security. He never considered that Monica had been making sacrifices too. Only hers had gone unseen. He whispered, "I didn't realize how much pain you were carrying." Monica looked at him quietly. "That's because you stopped looking." And this time Roland didn't look away from the truth. Monica stayed seated at the kitchen island, her coffee cooling between her hands. Roland did not rush her. That alone was new. Usually, silence made him uncomfortable. He was used to filling quiet moments with decisions, solutions, or instructions, but this morning he understood that if he spoke too quickly, he would only prove he had learned nothing. Monica looked toward the window, then back at him. "You know what made it harder?" she asked. Roland shook his head. "No. It wasn't only that you were absent at home," she said. "It was that I felt alone in both worlds." Roland leaned forward slightly. Monica continued. "When I went back to my community gatherings, people asked about you. Church events, family dinners, cookouts, simple birthdays. I was ways explaining why my husband wasn't there." Roland lowered his eyes. "I kept thinking they understood." "They did understand," Monica said. "That was the sad part. They understood too well. They watched me smile for a man who kept missing the moments that mattered." Roland swallowed. Monica's voice remained gentle, but every word carried weight. In my world, love shows up. People may not have much, but they bring. Food, laughter, help, correction, prayers, time. When someone belongs to you, people expect to see them. Not every day, not perfectly, but enough to know they are part of your life. Roland nodded slowly. He remembered the gatherings Monica had invited him to. He remembered saying, next time. He remembered how often next time never came. Monica took a careful breath. Then, in your world, I felt lonely in a different way. His face tightened. At the dinners? At the dinners? At the charity events? At the country club tables? At the art auctions? All those polite smiles. Roland looked at her. What happened there? Monica gave a small, humorless laugh. You were standing close enough to hear it. He went still. She did not accuse him loudly. She simply told the truth. People would say things like, you must be so grateful Roland gave you this life, or you adjusted so well, or you're very impressive for someone from your background. Roland's jaw clenched. Monica noticed. Now you hear it. I should have heard it then, he said. Yes, she replied. You should have. The answer was plain, but not cruel. Roland rubbed his hands together. I thought if I challenged every comment, it would make things uncomfortable. Monica looked at him carefully. It was already uncomfortable for me. He had no answer. She leaned closer, not angry, but firm. Roland, I never needed you to fight every person in every room. I needed you to stop laughing when I was being reduced. I needed you to stop squeezing my hand under the table while leaving me alone above it. His face fell. I did that? Many times. Roland looked away, ashamed. Monica softened her tone. You come from a world where people hide disrespect inside manners. I come from a world where people may correct you loud, but at least you know where you stand. For the first time, Roland understood the pressure Monica had carried. She had been defending him in her world and defending herself in his. He had thought she moved easily between both places because she was graceful. Now he saw grace had cost her something. He whispered, I made you stand alone. Monica held his gaze. Yes, Roland nodded slowly, accepting it, not as an insult, as truth. The morning light filled the kitchen, touching the same counters, the same expensive walls, the same quiet space he once believed meant success. But now he saw what Monica had been trying to tell him. A beautiful house could still feel empty. A wealthy husband could still leave his wife unprotected. And two people could share one marriage while living in completely different emotional worlds. Roland looked at Monica and said, I don't want you to carry both worlds by yourself anymore. Monica did not smile, not yet. But for the first time that morning, she did not look away. By the third day after the divorce papers appeared on the dining table, Roland had become restless. He had listened. He had admitted fault. He had slept in the guest room without complaint. But deep inside, the old part of him still wanted a fast solution. So he did what Roland had always done when something important was. Slipping out of his control, he tried to fix it with sighs. Monica came downstairs that Saturday morning and found 3 white envelopes lined neatly on the kitchen island. Roland stood beside them, dressed like a man preparing for a serious business presentation. Monica stopped walking. What is this? Roland cleared his throat. I canceled my meetings for next week. That part is good. He nodded quickly. I also booked us a private resort in Florida. No, business calls. Oceanfront suite. Full privacy. Monica stared at him. He pointed to the second envelope. And I made a donation to that community center you care about. Her face changed slightly. Roland missed the warning. He touched the third envelope. And I arranged a dinner tonight. Just us. The best chef in Washington. Private room. No interruptions. Monica remained quiet. Roland waited, hoping to see relief. Instead, she picked up one envelope, looked at it, and placed it back down. Roland, his shoulders stiffened. That tone meant he had failed before he understood how. I thought this would show effort, he said. It shows money. He blinked. I canceled meetings. Yes, because the marriage scared you. That's not fair. Monica looked at him steadily. It is fair. You are still trying to manage my pain instead of understanding it. Roland exhaled and looked away. I'm trying, Monica. I know, she said, softer now. But you are trying like a billionaire, not like a husband. That stopped him. She stepped closer to the island. A vacation is not wrong. A donation is not wrong. Dinner is not wrong. But you keep reaching for grand gestures because quiet consistency feels harder. Roland said nothing. Monica continued, If we go to Florida, will we be healed by Monday? No. If you give money to my community, does that erase all the times I stood there alone? No. If we sit in a private room tonight, will you know how to sit with me tomorrow when nobody is watching? Roland lowered his head. That was the question. Monica's voice gentled. I don't need you to perform regret. I need you to practice change. Roland looked at the envelopes again. For once, they looked small. He had thought effort meant making something impressive. Monica was asking for something harder, something ordinary, something daily. He picked up the envelopes and set them aside. No resort, he said quietly. Monica watched him. No private chef unless you actually want that. I don't, he nodded. No donation with my name attached. Her eyes softened a little. What will you do instead? Roland paused. For the first time, he did not answer quickly. I will start by asking what you need today. Monica studied him carefully. Today? Yes. She looked toward the sink where breakfast dishes waited. Today, you can wash those plates. Roland glanced at the sink, then back at Monica. That's it? For today? He removed his jacket slowly. Monica almost smiled. Roland? Yes? Roll up your sleeves. You are not negotiating with a plate. For the first time that week, a small laugh escaped him. It was not reconciliation. Not yet. But it was a beginning. The following week, Monica stood near the front door adjusting the sleeve of her blouse when she noticed Roland walking down the staircase. He had traded his usual custom-tailored suit for a simple button-down shirt and dark jeans. He looked uncomfortable, not because of the clothes, because he had no idea what he was walking into. Monica studied him for a moment. You're actually coming? Roland looked surprised by the question. You invited me. Monica folded her arms. I've invited you before. He accepted that without argument. You have. There was no defense in his voice, no explanation about work emergencies, no promises about making it up later, just acknowledgement. Monica picked up her purse. All right, she said. Let's go. The community gathering took place in one of the neighborhoods. Monica had grown up visiting throughout Washington. It wasn't extravagant. There were folding chairs, music playing through speakers that occasionally crackled, children running around without permission slips or schedules, people carrying trays of food from one table to another, laughter that came easily. Roland stood beside Monica near the entrance. What should I do? He asked quietly. Monica glanced at him. You don't have to impress anybody. What if I say the wrong thing? You probably will. He blinked. Monica finally smiled. But people survive awkward conversations every day. A few minutes later, Roland found himself helping move chairs. No one applauded. No one asked about stock prices. No one seemed interested in his wealth. Someone handed him paper plates without ceremony. He accepted them. As the afternoon unfolded, Monica noticed something unusual. Roland wasn't checking his phone. He wasn't searching for the nearest exit. He wasn't pretending enthusiasm while waiting for the event to end. He was paying attention. At one point, Monica returned from helping organize food and discovered Roland staring at his plate. He looked genuinely concerned. What happened? She asked. He lowered his voice. I underestimated the hot sauce. Monica looked down. You ate all of it? I thought confidence would help. And? Roland swallowed carefully. I think my ears can hear colors. Monica burst into laughter. Real laughter. The kind she hadn't shared with him in a very long time. Roland smiled despite himself. You're laughing at my suffering. You'll survive. I've never been less certain. The ease between them surprised both of them. The pain hadn't disappeared. The divorce papers still existed. But for a few moments they remembered what friendship inside, marriage once felt like. Later that evening, Monica adjusted the collar of her dress while preparing for a formal dinner connected to Roland's professional world. She looked at him carefully. If we're doing this, she said, we need rules. Roland nodded immediately. Okay. If someone says something disrespectful disguised as politeness, don't. Leave me standing there by myself. I won't. No nervous laughter. He winced. Fair. No squeezing my hand under the table while expecting me to defend myself publicly. Roland closed his eyes briefly. I really did that? Several times. He looked directly at her. I'm sorry. Monica shook her head gently. I already know you're sorry. Her voice remained calm. Tonight, I need you to be different. Roland held her gaze. For years, being different had sounded like criticism. Now it sounded like an opportunity. As they prepared to leave for the dinner, Roland adjusted his jacket and glanced toward Monica. I don't know if I'll get everything right. Monica looked at him thoughtfully. I don't expect perfection. What do you expect? She answered without hesitation. Presence. Roland nodded. Not the presence measured by occupying the same room. The presence Monica had been asking for all along. Attention, protection, partnership. Standing beside her instead of simply standing near her. And as they walked toward the front door together, Roland understood that learning to love Monica well would require more than apologies. It would require courage in rooms where silence had once been easier. 2 nights after attending Monica's community gathering and preparing, For the formal dinner ahead, Roland sat alone in his home office. The room had once been his favorite place in the house. Dark wood shelves, awards displayed neatly, photographs from business achievements, documents that shaped companies and careers. For years, this room represented control. Tonight, it represented accountability. The divorce papers rested on the desk in front of him. He had avoided reading every page carefully. At first, fear stopped him. Then pride. Now, honesty demanded it. Roland loosened his tie and opened the file. He expected anger. He expected punishment. He expected Monica to ask for half of everything he had spent decades building. Instead, he found fairness. His eyes moved slowly across the pages. Reasonable financial requests, no attempt to embarrass him publicly, no hidden conditions designed to humiliate him, no effort to damage his reputation, no demands rooted in revenge. He stopped reading and leaned back in his chair. Confusion settled over him. He returned to the beginning and read the terms again. The result remained the same. Monica wasn't trying to destroy him. She was trying to leave with dignity. Roland closed the folder and stared at the ceiling. He thought about every conversation he had heard throughout his life. People warning men about losing everything in divorce. People discussing wealth as something to defend at all costs. People assuming money automatically attracted selfish intentions. Somewhere along the way, he had absorbed those fears without realizing it. A quiet knock interrupted his thoughts. Monica stood near the doorway. "You've been in here a while." Roland looked down at the file. "I read everything." Monica nodded. "And?" He hesitated. "I don't understand." Her expression remained calm. "What don't you understand?" "You could have asked for more." Monica studied him carefully. "More what?" "The house, investments, assets." She walked farther into the office. "Roland, did you really think this was about your money?" He immediately answered, "No." Then he stopped. The truth caught up with him. "I don't know." Monica's face softened with sadness rather than offense. "You know what's painful?" "What?" "I spent years trying to convince people I didn't marry you because you were rich." She folded her arms. "And after everything we've shared, part of you still wondered if I'd leave trying to take everything." Shame washed over him. "Not because of you," he said quickly. "Because of the world you come from?" Monica asked. He nodded. She sat across from him. "I wanted something from you, Roland." He looked at her. "What?" "A husband." The answer left no room for misunderstanding. Monica met his eyes. "If I wanted wealth, I already had access to it." Her voice remained steady. "I wanted partnership." Roland lowered his head. No failed investment had ever humbled him this deeply. Monica rose from her seat. "I didn't file to win against you." She paused near the doorway. "I filed because I couldn't keep losing myself." After she left, Roland remained alone in the office. The divorce papers sat on his desk. For the first time, he no longer saw them as an attack. He saw them for what they truly were. A final attempt by the woman he loved to protect the parts of herself she had nearly sacrificed trying to save their marriage. 3 nights later, Roland stood behind the curtain of a Washington charity ballroom, staring down at the speech in his hands. The event had been on his calendar for months. As chairman of one of the city's largest charitable initiatives, he was expected to speak about leadership, generosity, and community impact. Ordinarily, this would have been easy. He had addressed investors during economic downturns. He had calmed anxious board members. He had spoken confidently in front of audiences much larger than this one. But tonight felt different. Because Monica was here. He looked through the opening in the curtain and found her seated among the guests. She wore a simple, elegant dress. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She never had. Even in rooms where people measured value by status, Monica carried herself with quiet confidence. Earlier that evening, before they left home, she had reminded him of the promise he made. No nervous laughter. Roland had smiled. "I remember." "No disappearing into business conversations." "I remember." "And no leaving me to defend myself." He met her eyes. "I remember that, too." Now, as applause signaled his introduction, Roland folded the speech in half. The words he had prepared suddenly felt incomplete. He walked toward the podium. The room settled into attentive silence. Crystal glasses reflected soft light. Conversations faded. Roland adjusted the microphone. "Good evening," he began. He spoke briefly about the organization's mission, the importance of giving back, the responsibility that came with influence. The audience nodded. It was the speech they expected. Then Roland paused. He glanced down at the pages in his hand. Slowly, he placed them aside. The room grew still. "I prepared remarks about legacy tonight," he said. His voice remained steady. "But recently, I've realized I don't fully understand legacy unless I acknowledge the person who taught me what truly matters." His eyes found Monica. She straightened slightly in her chair. Several guests turned toward her. Roland continued. My wife once said something that changed me. Monica's breath caught. He didn't look away. She told me, you brought roses to a marriage you stopped watering. The room became completely silent. Roland drew a measured breath. She was right. A few people shifted uncomfortably. He continued anyway. I spent years believing that providing comfort made me a good husband. He looked toward Monica again. I confused gifts with attention. I confused security with presence. I offered apologies without changing habits. His voice softened, and I stayed silent in moments when I should have defended the woman I promised to honor. Monica lowered her eyes briefly. Emotion tightened Roland's throat, but he pressed forward. I stand here tonight as someone who has achieved professional success. He paused. But success means very little if the people you love feel invisible while standing beside you. No one moved. No one interrupted. I am not sharing this because my marriage is perfect, Roland said. It isn't. I'm sharing it because humility arrived in my life through truth. He stepped away from the podium. The audience watched as Roland crossed the ballroom floor. He stopped a few feet from Monica. His voice grew quieter. Monica, he said, I cannot undo the years when you felt alone. He looked directly at her. I cannot erase every disappointment. His expression reflected sincerity rather than performance. But I can choose who I become moving forward. Tears filled Monica's eyes. Roland continued. You loved me before my accomplishments mattered to you. You stood beside me when I was difficult to reach. You gave grace I didn't deserve. He inhaled carefully. If you are willing, I want to spend the rest of my life becoming the husband you should have had from the beginning. The room held its breath. Monica slowly stood. She wiped beneath one eye before looking at him. You know, she said softly, this still doesn't excuse what happened to the rice. Laughter rippled through the ballroom. Roland laughed through his emotion. I understand. Monica stepped closer. I filed because I needed you to wake up. She held his gaze. I didn't know if you would. Roland's voice barely rose above a whisper. Is there still a chance? Monica looked at him for several seconds. Then she answered, yes. Hope crossed Roland's face. Monica lifted one finger. But we rebuild slowly. He nodded immediately. Slowly. And honestly. Honestly. And you're still attending the next community cookout. Roland released a shaky breath. Will there be hot sauce? Monica's lips curved into a smile. Absolutely. He placed a hand over his heart. Then I'll begin preparing immediately. This time, the laughter filling the ballroom felt genuine, not because everything had been repaired, but because two people had finally stopped pretending. And for the first time in years, Roland chose truth over image. Monica chose cautious hope over fear. The room witnessed something greater than polished speeches and charitable recognition. It witnessed the beginning of a marriage being rebuilt with honesty. After the charity event, Roland and Monica did not return home acting like everything had been fixed. That would have been too simple. The car ride back through Washington was quiet, but it was no longer cold. Monica sat beside Roland, looking out the window while he kept both hands folded in his lap instead of reaching for his phone. The old Roland would have wanted an answer immediately. Are we okay now? Are you withdrawing the divorce? Can we move forward? But that night he understood something important. Hope was not permission to rush her heart. When they arrived home, Monica removed her earrings and placed them on the entry table. Roland stood a few feet away. Thank you for coming tonight, he said. Monica looked at him. Thank you for telling the truth. He nodded slowly. I meant every word. I believe you meant it, she said. Now I need to see if you can live it. Roland accepted that without flinching. The next morning they sat together at the kitchen island with coffee between them. This time the conversation was not about blame. It was about rebuilding. Monica spoke first. I don't want us pretending one public speech healed years of distance. I don't either, Roland said. Good. She pulled a small notepad closer. Roland almost smiled. You made notes? Yes, Monica said. Because if we leave this to emotions alone, you'll try to solve marriage like a quarterly report. He gave a quiet laugh. That is fair. Monica tapped the first point. Counseling? Roland nodded. Yes. Not because we are broken beyond repair, she said, but because we need help speaking honestly without falling into old patterns. I agree, she tapped the next point. No phone dinners. Twice a week minimum. Roland looked at her. Only twice? Monica raised an eyebrow. Do not negotiate your way into trouble. He held up both hands. Twice is perfect, she continued. When we attend my community events, you come as my husband, not as a donor. Yes, when we attend your formal events, I come as your wife, not as decoration. Roland's face grew serious. Yes, and if someone disrespects either of us, we address it clearly. No silent suffering. He nodded again. No silent suffering. Monica leaned back. And finally, we rebuild slowly. No pressure, no forcing romance just because we miss it. Roland looked at her gently. I do miss it. Her expression softened. So do I. For a moment, the room grew quiet. Not empty, tender. Roland reached across the table, then stopped halfway. Monica noticed. Instead of pulling away, she placed her hand in his. It was not a full forgiveness. It was not the end of the pain. But it was a choice. Over the next weeks, Roland kept showing up in small ways. He came home for dinner. He listened without checking his phone. He attended counseling and did not treat it like an appointment to win. He washed dishes badly, burned rice once, and learned to laugh at himself. Monica watched carefully. She did not trust words quickly anymore, but consistency had a voice of its own, and slowly, day by day, their house began to feel less like a beautiful place where love had gone quiet, and more like a home where, too, people were learning how to hear each other again. 1 year later, Roland stood outside the front door of their Washington home with a bouquet of deep red roses in his hands. He looked down at them and smiled. A year ago, these same flowers had accompanied the worst night of his marriage. Back then, they had been an apology wrapped in expensive paper, a substitute, a distraction, a man trying to replace presence with presentation. Tonight was different. Roland checked his watch, not because he had another meeting waiting, not because someone was expecting a call, simply because he was proud of one thing. He was on time. His business phone had been turned off since that afternoon. His schedule had been cleared for the weekend. Dinner reservations had been made weeks in advance at Monica's favorite restaurant. No assistants had organized it. No one had reminded him. He had remembered because it mattered. Roland took a steady breath before opening the front door. Monica, he called. Kitchen, she answered. The sound of her voice still settled something inside him. He walked into the kitchen. Monica turned around and immediately noticed the roses. For a second, neither of them spoke. Then Monica folded her arms. Roses? She asked. Roland nodded. Yes, she tilted her head. You know these flowers have a complicated history. He smiled sheepishly. I know. Monica glanced at the bouquet. What else? Roland looked almost offended. What do you mean? You've learned enough not to think flowers can save a marriage. He laughed softly. Fair point. He lifted one finger. I made reservations at that little restaurant you love. A second finger. I turned off my business phone. A third finger. I cleared my entire weekend. Monica watched him carefully. And? Roland smiled. And I don't have a speech prepared. She narrowed her eyes. No speech? No speech? No emotional presentation in front of a ballroom? No microphones? No dramatic announcements? None. Monica studied him for another moment. Then she laughed. Good. Roland looked relieved. Because last time your anniversary gift came with emotional damage. He placed one hand over his heart. I've worked very hard to improve my reputation. You've improved, Monica corrected. His smile softened. That meant more to him than any award he had ever received. He handed her the bouquet. Monica accepted the roses, bringing them close enough to catch their scent. They're beautiful, she admitted. Roland looked at her. But? She smiled slightly. But they're just flowers. He nodded. Exactly. Monica's expression shifted. She placed the bouquet carefully on the counter. Then she reached behind her and picked up an envelope Roland hadn't noticed. His entire body froze. He stared at it. Monica. She held it out. Relax. His eyes widened. Please tell me those aren't more papers. Her lips curved upward. They are papers. Roland looked toward the ceiling. I don't think my heart can survive another anniversary surprise. Monica pressed the envelope into his hands. Open it. Slowly, Roland pulled out the documents inside. He read the first page, then read it again. His vision blurred. The official withdrawal of the divorce filing. His hands trembled. He looked up at Monica. She stepped closer. I'm not staying because you brought roses, she said softly. Tears gathered in Roland's eyes. I'm staying because you learned how to water what you love. He closed his eyes briefly. A year earlier, he had stood in the same house believing success made him prepared for anything. He had been wrong. Marriage had asked more of him than achievement ever had. Patience, humility, attention, consistency, presence. Roland opened his eyes. Thank you, he whispered. Monica shook her head. No. She reached up and touched his face gently. Thank you for finally listening. He wrapped his arms around her carefully, giving her time to pull away. If she wanted. She didn't. Instead, Monica rested her head against his chest. The roses remained on the counter behind them, beautiful, meaningful, but no longer responsible for carrying the weight of their love. The real gift had never been found in expensive gestures. It had been found in ordinary choices repeated faithfully. Coming home on time, keeping promises, defending each other, listening, showing up, choosing one another again and again. Roland kissed Monica's forehead. "You know," he said quietly, "I think I can handle the hot sauce now." Monica immediately stepped back and looked at him. "No," he blinked. "No? Let's not test the limits of this miracle." Roland laughed. Monica laughed with him, and standing there in their Washington kitchen surrounded by healing that had been built one honest day at a time, they finally understood. Something neither wealth nor hardship had taught them before. Love does not survive because people never fail. Love survives when pride steps aside, truth is welcomed, and two people choose the work of rebuilding instead of the comfort of giving up. The marriage that almost ended with divorce papers had found its way home. Not through grand gestures, not through status, not through roses, but through presence. And this time, when Roland looked at Monica, he wasn't remembering. To love her because it was their anniversary, he was loving her because she was his wife, and because every ordinary day after that had become another chance to. Keep watering what mattered most. If this story touched your heart, let us know in the comments. What do you think keeps a marriage strong during difficult seasons? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Love, Money, and Secret for more unforgettable American stories filled with love, life lessons, and second chances.